Craig. I don't know how you're going to follow that either. Now, Craig, I had the pleasure of sitting about 2 or 3 seats away from in the campaign HQ. He is now currently social media manager with News Talk, but was the architect of an incredibly successful social media campaign for Yes Equality.
Thank you, Kathy. Hello, everyone. So my name is Craig. I was lucky enough to lead the social media campaign for Yes Equality. So I just want to give you, hopefully, a snapshot of what we try to achieve online and through our social media channels throughout the campaign. And whilst the Yes Equality campaign is the case study, hopefully there are some learnings here that you'll be able to take from. Okay, so we had 2 key objectives for our social media campaign, and it was very much run in tandem and alongside the overall campaign for Yes Equality. We had, so 2 key objectives. So we were targeting 2 different audiences. We had one side, so we wanted to engage, educate, and inform the undecided voters. So you might have heard already, but so say we took the electorate, and we saw, so we might have had 20% who were a yes vote. No argument was going to change their mind. They were voting yes. So they were great. Then we had the 20% no voters. They were going to vote no. No yes argument was going to change their mind. So we're just going to leave them over there. And then we had, so what we called the 60% in the middle, so the movable middle. So we wanted to provide a space for them so that they would be able to ask questions, or we'd be able to address any concerns that they might have. So hopefully to bring them along on a journey so that they would feel confident and comfortable in voting yes. And then, so we also had, that 20% core yes supporters. So we wanted to mobilize and motivate them and empower them so that they can become advocates for the yes vote themselves. It was all about, if you're a supporter, you are the yes vote. You can become an agent for change. We wanted these people, they were maybe long-time supporters of the marriage equality campaign, but, maybe weren't comfortable enough talking about it, like Talia mentioned. It wasn't enough. We needed to actually talk about this. So we wanted to be able to provide them with the language and the resources that then they could go home to their friends and their families and tell them why they were voting yes on the 22nd of May. Okay, so unfortunately I wasn't able to be here yesterday, but I was following it all on Twitter. And I can't see, the theme that seemed to be emerging throughout was that language and tone was key to the campaign, and I'm just going to echo that. And it was key to our success. I suppose for me, the biggest achievement was achieving, creating and maintaining that positive tone and being able to somewhat control the message, especially online. Because if you think back to when the issue was in front of the Constitutional Convention in April 2013, I remember there was kind of radio, TV debates at the time, and if you went onto social media, there was just a lot of negative language, and I suppose we just knew that couldn't be a part of this campaign. We needed to create a campaign that people wanted to be a part of. And I think if people kind of were seeing the language that did exist as part of this, they would have just shut off. So as we used to say that, marriage is all about joy and happiness, so we wanted the campaign to reflect that. And I think that we were successful, I think that's kind of evident, in kind of maintaining that throughout the campaign. And I'll just go into a little bit more about how we achieved that. So then just kind of some of the tools that we employed throughout the campaign. So there's a couple of kind of different examples of the types of content that we used. One of the things that we noticed kind of early on that these memes were hugely kind of influential for us. So we just started rolling them out as much as we possibly could. So whenever, there was a well-known person in the media, they would get asked a question, or we might even approach them and ask them, for their support on the issue. We pop it on a graphic, share it on our social channels, and it would just get shared far and wide. I think throughout the course of the campaign, the one we had of Daniel O'Donnell and Mary McAleese were by far the biggest ones. So that was just kind of, I suppose, a kind of an easy example of how we were getting that message across. And like Finian mentioned earlier, it really worked as well when it was the kind of the unexpected voices. That I think that really resonated with people. It was almost like, well, if they're voting yes, like, you know, I can support this too. So then also, we created these kind of simple kind of infographics just to, I suppose, it was getting the message across, but then trying to ease of access for people. So we started off with the Register to Vote campaign in November 2014. And in Ireland, it's not the easiest thing to do. In fact, it's a little bit archaic, but we presented it as if it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. So just this type of kind of imagery and infographics really kind of, again, really resonated with people. And then also the one then on the right, so again, we were creating kind of like this sense of urgency. I suppose one of the things that we were a bit apprehensive about in the campaign was kind of a sense of complacency, that people are like, oh, sure, that's grand, that'll fly through. But, you know, we needed to kind of put out the message that, like, no, it's not grand. You know, we need everybody to get out and vote. So it's just like there, you know, make your vote count. And then again, so this is just another example. So on the day of the referendum, we had created these, I suppose, campaign alerts. We had a green one, an amber one, and a red one. And depending on what we were hearing back about reports on the turnout, we were going to put out like the relevant alerts. So even though we were hearing good things about about the level of turnout, we still put out the red alert and said, okay, like, you know, everybody needs to get out there and vote. And again, it was crazy, just even on the day, seeing everybody sharing this, you know, it really kind of created that, like, everybody get out kind of sense, which was great. And then just another kind of example of that, we had like a pledge to vote app on our Facebook page as well. So this was a really kind of handy way for people to kind of show their support for the issue, especially kind of like in the early days. And it was also handy for us as well, because people had the option, but we were able to collect email addresses through this as well, and then kind of contact them through kind of like our e-zine list as well. So just kind of some useful and practical tools that kind of enabled us to the campaign, but also allowed people to show their support. And then again, we also had an app. So we were just trying to provide as much kind of resources for people that they could become part of the campaign themselves. So there was a couple of different kind of functions we kind of brought into the whole Snapchat kind of craze, so people could apply their own kind of filters saying that they were voting yes. It had voting information. You could set like reminders on your phone, so like you get a notification a day before, 4 hours before, you know, the time that you said you were going to vote. So those kind of things were, again, just really useful tools for us. And I'm just going to play this short video then.
To begin with, as everybody knows around me, I'll be 90 at the weekend, and I have 14 children, 25 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. I'm a practicing Catholic. I wouldn't miss Mass for anything. God made us all, and He made us all equal. Everybody should have the opportunity to get married, and gay and lesbian people should have been free to get married years ago. Now it's a great opportunity for everybody to get out and vote yes. I think it is very important.
That was the legend that was Madeleine Connolly. So again, I think this was one of the real areas where social media came to the fore, especially like for us in the campaign. We wanted to kind of create that vehicle for telling personal stories. You know, that's what the whole campaign was about, be it on the doors, through canvassing, people talking to their friends and their families. But then again, online, you know, we were able to kind of control this message and provide a space for people to tell their personal stories online. If you think about like the use of TV or radio, like in the campaign, it was often a debate, you know, 50-50, and there had to be balance. Whereas through our kind of social media accounts and online, we could control the message and what we wanted to put out to our audiences. So again, like it was just such a powerful outlet for us. those videos, we had a few different videos for the Marriage and Family Matters part of the campaign, and they were just so powerful throughout. So just some of the key learnings, then again, from the use of social media in the campaign. So they're communicate and organise locally. There were 50, 60 plus, 70 plus Yes Equality accounts all around the country, and many of these had their own Facebook pages and Twitter accounts. And it was a very useful, practical tool for those. So even with their Facebook, it would, like, so say if you take Yes Equality Waterford, it would have started off with like a Facebook group. People were joining that, and then they were invited to a meeting. And that's kind of like how the groups kind of like organically built up. And then again with Twitter, like, so if it's Yes Equality Galway, sending out a tweet saying, we're meeting at this area tomorrow evening, going canvassing at this time, and then people see that and able to turn up and go out canvassing. So just that kind of the practical use of it in that way. Turning the negative into a positive. Again, this is something where I really saw the power in it. So if you think back to when the no posters went up, and they went up ahead of the yes posters, and it kind of caused a bit of outrage at the time. But we had just started a crowdfunding campaign at that time as well. So we tried to kind of like harness that frustration and channel it into kind of like a positive outcome for the campaign. So we were like putting out messages saying, like, you know, don't get angry, don't get frustrated, donate to the campaign. And we were just kind of like driving everyone to the fundraising page. And we had a huge spike in donations in a 24-hour period. I think it was over like 50 grand. We had initially set out to raise 50 grand in a 3-week period. And by the end of that 3 weeks, we'd raised 107,000. So that's just, again, like the power in that. But then also around canvassing as well. So during kind of TV debates, you know, you would have people that just didn't like what the no side were saying, and that's understandable. But we were, again, just trying to harness that. So we were saying, you know, don't get angry, don't get frustrated, join your local canvassing group, and then sending them to kind of the page on the website where there was a list of the local groups and where they were meeting to go canvassing and stuff. So it's just kind of trying to harness all of that energy in a way that would benefit the campaign. So, and then encouraging supporter participation. Again, so we were just trying to provide as much resources for people that they could become part of the campaign. This ranged from using the Twibbons, you know, people like selfie frames, all of that kind of things. You know, it was really, really powerful, especially like in the early days. If you think back to like prior to November 2014, nobody really knew who Yes Equality were. Of course, they were kind of aware of like the issue, the different organisations, but as like Yes Equality, the name and the brand, that wasn't out there so much. But then, like in the space of kind of the first 3 weeks, we had kind of, I'd say, like broken out of that bubble, and it became very, like people in the public eye became very aware of it very quickly. And that was through the use of just kind of providing people with everything they needed to become part of the campaign. We kind of provided like registered vote packs, simple signs where people like, you know, were taking photos saying, I'm ready to vote, and then tweeting them out. And like the likes of Colin Farrell, Hosier, they were all doing it in those early stages. And when they were doing that, it was becoming a story in the national media in itself. So it was just kind of getting as far out there as we could in the early days. And then one of the other things I think would encourage kind of campaigns to do is just to integrate social into your wider campaign. Yes, it's definitely a very powerful communications tool, but also in terms of fundraising around crowdfunding, all of that sort of thing. So just integrate it throughout the different sections of your campaign. Okay, so just kind of some stats then around the use of social media for Yes Equality. So from November, the hashtag MarRef was used almost 1 million times. So then just conversations around the referendum, around Yes Equality, generated global impressions of almost 1 billion in the week leading up to the voting day. And then Yes Equality, like as Finian mentioned as well, you know, there was this kind of like spikes, but we were steadily kind of seeing like this increase of engagement throughout the campaign, just the momentum behind kind of like all of like our content and things like that. It was just phenomenal to see. And then in the final weeks of the campaign, we were having an organic reach of 3 million. So people would talk about social media as being like an echo chamber. You're speaking to your base. But I would disagree with that somewhat. So by the end, I think we had grown to 67,000, say, likes on Facebook, but our content was reaching 3 million people. So just kind of, you can see the difference there. And then that all manifested then in the Home to Vote, which I think people really connected with. And I think this really reflects what we were trying to achieve as the campaign, you know, this kind of feel-good campaign that people wanted to be a part of. And I think this really, really captured it there. And you can just see the activity across the world. And it's just something that people will remember for years to come. And then this was our final post on the 23rd of May. So when the returning officer in Dublin Castle was reading out the votes, I was standing there ready to hit post. And yes, so we finished up, and this post had an organic reach of 1 million alone. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.